This is Sunrise Extra, streaming live on Wave Now.
Great to see you on an early Friday morning, everybody. I'm Rob Wells. We want to keep you updated on a situation we've been monitoring for about the last 45 to 50 minutes. We're talking about 265 eastbound at 65. You see just a sea of cars out there kind of backed up. I'm talking about over on this side here. We're talking about a two-car crash that started about an hour ago. Police telling us at least one person hurt out there and transported. Don't know of any other injuries at this point, but officials are telling us that that area is going to be at a slowdown, at least the left lanes, for at least the next hour, hour and a half. Again, we're looking at 265 east at 65, a two-car incident out there, a crash resulting in at least one person being transported. As we do get more throughout the morning, we're going to pass it along to you. Over to you, Shannon.
All right, thank you. And we're going to check in right now with Tawana as we have a lot of outdoor things going on this weekend.
Oh, yeah, we have so much happening. We have the Gaslight Festival. We have Bourbon Fest in Bardstown. We have, of course, Racing Louisville playing tonight, U of L playing tonight. We have all the high school football games. So with everything happening, plus the potential for strong severe storms, we have issued an alert day for later on this afternoon, mainly between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And this is not an issue for everyone. We are watching Kentucky mainly for the best opportunity for some of those stronger storms. A little bit hazy out there this morning on our SkyTrack cameras looking from downtown Louisville, but most of us are starting off with mainly clear skies. We have been watching a little bit of that patchy fog out there in some spots, mainly in our river valleys. Your temperatures range from 54 degrees in Madison to 60 in E-Town. A little bit more of that humidity along and south of the parkways just because you have a stationary front in your area. As we head over the next 12 hours, we're going to end up back in the 80s for your highs. So for most of the day, a mix of sun and clouds. Now you'll need the rain gear later on this afternoon, especially south of the parkways, because this is where you have a much better chance to see some of these scattered showers and thunderstorms. Some of you, though, will be bone dry for today. This is why it's going to be so important to be weather aware. I mentioned that 4 to 9 p.m. time frame for the best opportunity for some of those strong to severe thunderstorms. And once we get into the overnight hours, our rain chances actually go up as more widespread rainfall comes our way, but that severe threat does drop off. So we'll keep an eye on a whole lot happening as we head over the next 24 hours. Shannon.
Thank you. Breaking this morning, police say a man is in the hospital after a shooting in Highview. It happened about 5 a.m. on Joyce Drive near the Outer Loop. Police say the victim is expected to survive. Police have not made any arrests.
New on Sunrise, a woman is dead after a crash in Grayson County. It happened on the Western Kentucky Parkway Thursday morning around 4:25 a.m. Investigators say 25-year-old Francisco Tazikin was driving westbound in a car when he crossed the median and hit another car driving eastbound on the parkway. A woman in the car driven by Tazikin died. 2 other juvenile passengers were taken to Norton Children's Hospital for serious injuries. The driver of the other car was taken to Twin Lakes Regional Medical Center for serious injuries as well. Francisco Tazikin was arrested and charged for leaving the scene of an accident and failure to render aid.
This morning, a murder suspect will go before a judge in the case of a deadly shooting involving teenagers in Valley Station. Jeremiah Robinson is charged with murder and assault. The shooting happened Tuesday off Laurent Way. Officers found a 17-year-old boy shot in the head. He later died at U of L Hospital. His name has not been released. Another teen was shot in the leg, and police were later called to St. Mary's Hospital, where they say Robinson went with a gunshot wound to the arm. He's set to be in court this morning. This morning, the end result of a multi-state federal operation seizing drugs and a lot of arrests right here in Kentucky.
The Drug Enforcement Administration's work led to officers arresting dozens of suspects. Federal officials say 51 members of the Sinaloa cartel were arrested in our region, 14 of them in Kentucky. They face a wide range of criminal charges related to drug trafficking. As part of the sweep, the DEA and partners say they took 133 guns off the streets, seized nearly 9,000 counterfeit pills, and more than 78 grand in cash. The special agent in charge of the Louisville Field Division says drugs don't discriminate.
It's in every neighborhood. It's in everyone's backyard, regardless if you're on the east end or the west end or the south end. It's everywhere in Louisville. It's everywhere across our 3 states. And they profit off the backs of the families that have lost loved ones to drug poisonings. And we'd be naive to think that they haven't made it into our own backyards.
Investigators call the Sinaloa cartel one of the largest producers and traffickers of fentanyl to the U.S. Scott says Mexican drug cartels like Sinaloa are responsible for the vast majority of drugs that end up in the states.
A new grassroots effort has launched in Jefferson County, and the mission is to put a spotlight on judges when they're up for re-election or seeking a new seat.
Louisville Judges Watch will work to educate and inform residents before they ever head to the polls. Wave News reporter Rob Wells is here now with a closer look. Rob?
Yeah, and Olivia, as for criteria that they're looking for in candidates, like recent rulings, organizers say they've not explicitly published their own stances. The case of Armand Langford's arrest was an apparent tipping point. Langford is the man accused of kidnapping a mother and her 2 kids, forcing her at knife point to drive him to rob a local bank. At the time, Langford, we've learned, was out on shock probation. Judge Jessica Green approved his probationary release in 2024, and since this new arrest, she's received backlash, even reports of threats. A spokesperson for the group says they want to see violent criminals stay in jail.
But right now, we are absolutely interested in having conversations, hearing victim stories, so that can inform the way we go about engaging in individual races. We don't have a clear rubric, so to speak, set at this time.
Glick says that the group has been forming over the last few months. The biggest focus right now, she says, is empowering and education so that people feel confident in making judge selections. The Judges Watch group has said that they run targeted campaigns for candidates that they support, but Glick couldn't elaborate on what those campaigns would actually look like. Shannon?
Thanks, Rob. A New Albany business owner's in jail after police say he planned a murder for hire.
Detectives began investigating back in May when New Albany police rushed to Bank Street after a shooting at a barber shop. A woman was injured in that drive-by shooting, but she was not the intended target. The man identified as the intended target later told investigators he was a former member of a motorcycle gang, later identified as Menace 13. The same man told police he believed the person behind the shooting is the owner of North Star Tattoo on Vincennes Street. Investigators say that person is Henry Bachman, but Bachman isn't the first arrest in the case. Police say the actual shooter is Aaron Brown, who was arrested in May. Documents reveal that in his interview with detectives, Brown claimed he was hired by Joseph Flesia to murder the victim and his pregnant girlfriend because the victim left the Menace 13 gang. Brown also told police he overheard a phone call between Flesia and Bachman was angry that the 2 targets weren't dead yet. Flesia was also arrested, and now Bachman is charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
Louisville city leaders want Chickasaw neighborhood families to know there is a plan that could shape how their home look for the long term. District 5 Councilwoman Donna Purvis wrapped up last night's meeting talking about the creation of a Chickasaw Historical Preservation District. If this measure passes, any exterior changes to buildings within the neighborhood's boundaries would have to go through a design review process. If approved, homeowners could qualify for the Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program. The Metro Council still has to give the measure final approval.
There's a new loan program that city leaders hope will boost growth for South Louisville businesses. The South End Loan and Incentive Fund supports local businesses along the Dixie Highway corridor. Mayor Craig Greenberg says this new fund allows Metro government to partner directly with businesses in the South End. The $2 million investment has 2 major components. The first supports local businesses by improving and expanding their buildings. The other helps attract established national or regional restaurants to Dixie Highway. Local businesses can find an application on LouisvilleAlliance.org/Southend. Tonight, Cards fans can watch their team under the Friday night lights as U of L hosts James Madison. James Madison won't be a cakewalk, though. They played in a bowl game last year, so they definitely have some strengths. Head coach Jeff Brom said he expects his team to be tested from this point forward in the season.
A lot of guys got to play, was good for the team, but now we're going to, face some very competitive, really good football teams that, have already won at a high level and beaten really good opponents throughout the last couple of years. So we'll have to be ready to go.
Kickoff at L&N Stadium is set for 7 o'clock tonight.
Heaven Hill Brands has now a new distillery in Bardstown. More about this and just how many barrels they can produce here.
New this morning, Louisville City leaders say the new Critical Infrastructure Task Force is getting results. The task force is in charge of reducing copper wire thefts in the city. It just announced the arrest of Jacob Roeder and David McGill. Task force leaders say they were caught stealing copper wire from multiple sites in the Riverport corridor. Both are facing criminal mischief and stolen property charges. Task force leaders say other operations have led to multiple felony charges against people targeting both city-owned and private infrastructure systems.
Indiana Governor Mike Braun says he wants to help Hoosiers find ways to save money on their utility bills. Braun's appointing a new director to look into this. The Indiana Citizens Action Coalition reports the average electric bill went up by 17.5% in just the last year. That is an extra $28 a month on average. At the same time, multiple Indiana electric companies have asked for further rate hikes. Some of their reasons include covering increased construction and transmission projects. You can maybe get a little bit of break using the AC this weekend.
I know. I had my doors open, let the fresh air in. It was just so beautiful these past few days.
It really has been, but something to note as you're heading out this morning, I just checked some of the sensors and, of course, some of the satellites, and there is quite a bit of wildfire smoke overhead, and that is why the sky is looking a little bit more hazy to start off the day. So 52 degrees right now in Seymour, 63 in Columbia, 61 at the airport in Louisville. Not much change there, but this is that hazy look that I mentioned. Yeah, that wildfire smoke overhead to start off the day. And we're going to keep it around through the morning hours, but that front moving in later on tonight should help to clear some of that out. We're also watching mainly clear skies across the region this morning. We'll see temperatures climbing from those 50s and 60s where we are right now into the 80s later on today. But notice what happens as we get into later on this afternoon. This is when we'll see some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms popping across our region. Now, the trend is to keep most of us dry for the entirety of your Friday, but for those of you along and south of the parkways, this is where you have a much better chance for some of these scattered showers and thunderstorms. So really, like, our southernmost 6 counties may be the ones dealing with these storms, while the rest of us will be quiet. Once we head into later on this evening, especially after 9 p.m., that severe threat drops off, but we'll watch for rain becoming more widespread early tomorrow morning. Let's talk a little bit more about that severe threat for today. Those of you across Kentucky outlooked with some sort of severe weather risk for this afternoon and evening, with the marginal risk level 1 out of 5 in between the Ohio River and the Kentucky Parkways, the Western Kentucky Parkway and the Bluegrass Parkway. For those of you further to the south of the parkways, you have a slight risk of severe weather, but doesn't matter which category you're in, the threats remain the same. Mainly watching damaging winds, we could see some pockets of locally heavy rainfall. But once we get into later on today, especially for those of you a little bit warmer south of the parkways, I cannot rule out that potential for some hail or even an isolated tornado. So a lot to watch for later on today. Thankfully, this is not a threat that looks to last very long. These storms look to move in and out pretty quickly. Then we head into Saturday with that cold front finally making its way through our region. Additional rounds of rainfall expected throughout the morning. Will dry out for tomorrow afternoon with the clouds clearing. That should allow our temperatures to climb into the 70s. So for the outdoor events happening for the second half of Saturday, those actually look pretty good as of right now. So keep that in mind if you're one of those folks planning and just keeping an eye on the forecast. The end of the weekend, though, looks marvelous. We're talking sunshine and highs in the 70s on your Sunday. As you get further through next week, it's all about the warming trend with more of those mid to upper 80s for your highs across the region as we head through next week. And only isolated rain chances at best, and some models still trying to pump out highs near 90 degrees for the following weekend. So some summer heat is trying to come our way, but just make sure you have the Wave Weather app downloaded with your notification and location turned on in case we get any strong severe storms in your area later on this afternoon and evening.
But that's actually looking pretty good for Bourbon and beyond.
Yeah, as long as this holds, yeah, we have to keep an eye on a couple of systems that will try to move by and the tropics. But as of right now, if this holds, Bourbon and beyond might be a little bit warm.
Yeah, but not as hot as it has been.
No, it's honestly not a bad forecast at all.
True. Thank you. Heaven Hill Brands has a new distillery in Bardstown, and they celebrated the grand opening yesterday. The company leaders say the Heaven Hill Springs Distillery is state-of-the-art, $200 million facility. They started production there in April of this year, with the first barrel being filled by Master Distiller Emeritus Charlie Downs. The distillery joins Heaven Hill's existing Bernheim facility in Louisville. Distillery leaders say this new space will allow them to significantly expand their bourbon production.
And we had that devastating fire in 1996 and have been producing our award-winning bourbon in Louisville, Kentucky, which is an amazing facility at the Bernheim facility ever since. But to now have this facility in addition to Bernheim is truly a dream come true.
The facility began operation with an initial capacity of 150,000 barrels per year, but they can produce up to 450,000 barrels a year. Well, the indoor pool at the Mary T. Maher Aquatic Center is back open and running again.
The Aquatic Center reopened Tuesday morning after it was closed since May for renovations and upgrades. It cost around $500,000 to complete. Most of the work was to replace the pool deck, repair the weight room, and give it a fresh coat of paint. The new tile was also put in to make it safer around the pool.
We had a 4- and 5-inch tile, and a lot of our seniors would slip and fall on that. So we're using a 1-inch tile that was going to help with the safety of everything. It's like being in a shower. You know you're safe when you can walk and not have to worry about falling.
There will be a free pool party at the Aquatic Center to celebrate the new repairs. That'll be Saturday, September 13th from noon to 3 p.m. There will be free open swim for all ages, pizza, and music. You can register and find out more about volunteer options by checking out this story on our website, wave3.com.
Well, UK is offering students a new way to get groceries this school year if they need help. We'll tell you about that coming up.
Well, a huge Powerball jackpot, and the Kentucky Lottery is holding a special promotion right here in Louisville.
They're going to be giving coupons away this morning. It'll start at 10 a.m. at the Publix supermarket in Terra Crossing. The first 500 people in line will get a $2 Powerball coupon. The jackpot is around $1.7 billion, and that next drawing will happen tomorrow night.
Good luck to everyone with that. Well, today, a second Louisville Wawa is opening its stores on Bardstown Road. The ribbon cutting will be at the store near Fakenbush Lane at 8 o'clock. If you're one of the first 250 customers in line, you can get a free t-shirt and a free any-sized hot coffee. For those who aren't familiar with Wawa, it's a Pennsylvania-based convenience store known for selling homemade hoagies. New this morning, a new food locker system at the University of Kentucky is helping students with their diets around the clock. UK officials have added lockers to the Big Blue Pantry. It's a system that helps students get groceries that they might not be able to get otherwise. Those groceries are all free. All students parents have to do is fill out a form, and they can find a bag full of those hygiene items and shelf-stable foods they requested, even after the pantry has closed its doors for the day. The school hopes this will help students who have trouble getting to a grocery store or a pantry during the day.
The Old Louisville Craft Brew Festival is happening today. You can try out different craft beers poured by Kentucky brewers. It's going on today from 6 to 10 p.m. in Central Park. And local favorites like Against the Grain, Gravely, Noble Funk, and Old Louisville Brewery will be there giving samples. In addition to drinks, they'll have music, games, and food. Tickets are $15, or you can get 2 for $20. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to check in with Rob again as we continue to look at that heavy traffic on I-265 East at 65.
Now, stick with us here on Sunrise Extra.
This Wave News Update is sponsored by Oxmoor Auto Group.
And good morning on your early Friday morning. It is just after 7:30 or close to 7:30. I'm Rob Wells. Keeping an eye on the traffic out there this morning. A major tie-up to tell you about. We're still keeping an eye right now. A major backup causing headaches at the Gene Snyder. At least 2 lanes blocked in that area. This is 265 near the I-65 North interchange. We're told police, fire, and EMS all on the scene. Police say that 1 person was hurt and taken to an area hospital. The patient condition unknown at this hour, but this again is causing a major backup. Again, we're looking at 265 east at 65. We're seeing emergency responders now on both sides of the interstate. A lot of folks merging and trying to get over there. Certainly follow the detours and the posted signs out there. And of course, as always, make sure that you move over to the side and give first responders time to get out there and clean up that incident. The emergency responders are telling us right now that should be at least slowed down for at least the next 45 to 50 minutes. So, of course, as we do get more information on that, we will pass it along to you. But for now, let's send it over to Tawana with a look at our forecast. Tawana, good morning.
Good morning, Rob, and we're going to be keeping an eye on those temperatures right now in the 50s and the low 60s. The temperature-wise, we're pretty good to start off the day. A bit hazy overhead, though, as we do have a significant amount of wildfire smoke drifting over our region this morning. We are going to keep an eye on that wildfire smoke, but we are seeing plenty of clear skies out there to start off the day. Your temperatures are going to end up in the 80s for later on this afternoon as we watch for some more of those scattered showers and thunderstorms. So don't forget, we do have that alert day out for the 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. time frame, mainly for Kentucky, because this is where we have a much better chance for some of those scattered strong to severe thunderstorms, while the rest of us just stay sunny and dry. That slight risk of severe weather remains in place for those of you along and south of the parkways, with damaging winds is the main concern, but heavy rain, hail, and isolated tornadoes are also possible.
Good morning and happy Friday to you. Hope your Friday is off to a great start already, and hopefully you have some exciting plans for the weekend. We have a lot to get to this morning, including our top headlines in sports. Plus, we're in Kentucky. We've got to talk about bourbon, so we'll have some updates from distilleries. But first, an update now is lawyers for a former Kentucky sheriff who's accused of killing a judge in his own chambers do not want him to have a second mental health evaluation. Prosecutors Prosecutors requested a second evaluation for former Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Steins. Steins is accused of shooting and killing District Judge Kevin Mullins in his chambers last year. Prosecutors say another evaluation is needed because Steins was in an active state of psychosis days after the shooting. His defense argues there isn't a good enough reason for another evaluation and it would delay the trial. Steins' lawyers plan to argue an insanity defense at trial. A judge has yet to rule on that motion. A new video this morning is showing the moments after the arrest and Steins' interaction with police. Reporter Betty Forbes has that video.
There's all kinds of people in here just running around chaotic, so how am I going to tell you what happened? To the judge? Yeah.
The defense team for former Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Steins introduced new materials to the court this week, supporting the motion to dismiss the murder indictment based on what they claim are well-corroborated mental health concerns that went undisclosed during the original grand jury testimony.
You don't want to talk about it?
No.
Okay.
You're going to kill me, ain't you?
No.
No. No, Mickey, why in the world would we do that?
Support documents claim the Commonwealth falsely testified to not being aware of Steins displaying mental health issues, saying several reported interviews with those close to Steins had shared concerns about his mental state, including claims of paranoia about his family being killed. Kentucky State Police body cam footage of the hours following the shooting shows Steins continually raising concerns about his own safety while in custody.
Why do you think we would do something to you, Mickey? I'm just curious.
Asking several times to see his family.
I want to see my daughter in person, and then after that, I'll tell you everything.
Court documents obtained by WYMT included a transcript of the grand jury testimony, a transcript which has now been sealed by the court.
Was this something to do with your family or anything like that?
In which investigators say Steins' daughter and wife denied any involvement with the victim, District Judge Kevin Mullins. The document claims the reported stress and anxiety was connected to a civil suit involving a sex scandal in the judge's quarters, citing a local attorney who reportedly spoke to Mullins about Steins prior to the murder, saying the former sheriff, quote, couldn't take this kind of pressure.
No, there's somebody's in. No.
The support documents also included a triage assessment from the Leslie County Detention Center.
Come on out, Mickey.
Which claims Steins was in an active state of psychosis days after the shooting, showing no recollection of recent events. Since Steins' attorneys introduced plans for an insanity defense, the Commonwealth submitted a motion of intent to have him examined again by a private mental health specialist. The Commonwealth also requested a change of venue in the case. However, the defense team argues there is no place in the nation where the case has not been in the headlines. In Letcher County, Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
The defense team also submitted a motion to set a bond hearing for Steins. The judge has yet to respond to any of the recent motions, but certainly a lot of eyes are on this case. Today, President Trump is expected to sign an executive order to rename the Department of Defense. According to a White House official, the Department of Defense, also known as the Pentagon, will be changed to the Department of War. The agency was called the Department of War until 1949, when it was changed to the Department of Defense under President Harry Truman. The last time the department's name was changed, it took an act of Congress. Leaders in Washington, D.C. are suing the Trump administration for deploying the National Guard to the city. The lawsuit was filed by D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab. It accuses the president of violating the Constitution and federal law by sending troops in without local approval. It also claims those troops are illegally acting as local police by patrolling neighborhoods and carrying out searches and arrests. Schwab calls the deployment unnecessary and unwanted, and that it's eroding trust between law enforcement and D.C. residents. The White House responded to say the president has lawful authority to deploy the Guard. A federal appeals court has blocked the order to close the controversial detention facility called Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. Last month, a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction after environmental groups and a Native American tribe filed a federal lawsuit. The injunction would have effectively shut down the facility within 60 days of the judge's order. Both the state of Florida and Homeland Security asked the appeals court to stay the preliminary injunction. 3 appellate judges agreed and issued a stay on both the preliminary injunction and the case pending a further appeal. Local health leaders are pushing for patients to get their flu vaccines. It comes as federal health leaders target access to vaccines and research supporting vaccine development. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. came under some bipartisan scrutiny during Thursday's Senate Finance Committee meeting. Under Kennedy's guidance, the administration wants to limit some groups' access to the COVID-19 vaccine and cancel funding for research into mRNA vaccines. Here in the Metro, doctors like Kevin Ziegler at Baptist Health say any medicine can come with a percentage of risk, but for Ziegler, the studied benefits outweigh the downsides. Dr. Ziegler says with flu season around the corner, now is a good time to take stock of your health.
The influenza vaccine is not only beneficial for you, the patient, but it's also beneficial for your family, your friends, so that if you do come down with the flu, that you're not shedding as much virus.
While there's still not the same type of immunization, still published guidance from the CDC recommends vaccines like the COVID shot and the flu vaccine for everyone 6 months and older. Dr. Ziegler says if you have any concerns, you should call your doctor. Well, it has been a rough year for businesses along River Road. First came the floods. Then there was that Louisville water pipeline project. Restaurant owners in particular have felt the impact. They told Wave News reporter David Mattingly the man-made disruptions have been the worst.
On this Tuesday in September, the lunch crowd at Captain's Quarters is a little light. Par for the course after months of aggravating disruptions, starting with a top 10 flood that inundated the restaurant in April.
The flood was damaging. It was, costly, but we're insured for that. This construction loss of business is not insured, and it was more costly than the flood damage.
These are now the literal signs of the times on River Road, warning motorists of construction for a Louisville water pipe project. Masterson says each week dozens of customers call asking if they're still open.
We know that there's hundreds of them that are just not even bothering coming near us because of the construction. They don't want to get in the middle of that.
Masterson says receipts are down 25% from last year. Server tips are down $100,000. Brent George, owner of Cunningham's Creekside, also reports a 25% loss.
I think the big, if you boil it all down, the signage is sending people away, and I don't think they realize the impact it is.
The warning and detour signs went up in March, but as we go through this section of River Road, we drive for 2 miles, seeing no evidence of active construction. Louisville Water has responded with emails, social media, and a web page dedicated to construction updates. But the most severe disruptions are still 4 to 6 weeks away, when the construction finally arrives at the doorstep of multiple popular dining spots.
Causing a lot of headaches, that's for sure. Louisville Water is expecting the River Road portion of the project will be done by next summer. I know a lot of people really looking forward to that being over. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Kentucky news coming up in just 2 minutes. Now it's time to take a look at what's good in our area, because sometimes you just need an extra pick-me-up on your mornings. And a group of JCPS students got that warm welcome as they arrived to school yesterday. Take a look. Yeah, that group right there, called the Flash Dads. They kicked off their first morning of the school year at Maupin Elementary. Dozens of local dads lined the hallways alongside JCPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood. They welcomed students with music, cheers, high fives, and just straight up good vibes as they came through the door.
Oh, it feels like you're at a football game or some kind of place where you're just celebrating all the time. It's just like Kentucky Kingdom, but it's Maupin Kingdom. This is the Panthers' Den. This is where kids come, and they're doing so great, such great work every day.
Getting the kids excited for school. Once a month during the school year, dozens of men and women from the community show up at JCPS elementary schools to surprise the students. The Flash Dads and Mornings with Mom events are coordinated by the district's Diversity, Equity, and Poverty Department. Looks like fun, and the kids seem to enjoy it. Heaven Hill Brand celebrated the grand opening of their new Heaven Hill Springs Distillery in Bardstown. It's a state-of-the-art $200 million facility. Heaven Hill began production there in April of this year, with the very first barrel being filled by Master Distiller Emeritus Charlie Downs. The distillery joins Heaven Hill's existing Bernheim facility in Louisville, which allows the company to significantly expand its bourbon production footprint.
And we had that devastating fire in 1996 and have been producing our award-winning bourbon in Louisville, Kentucky, which is an amazing facility at the Bernheim facility ever since. But to now have this facility in addition to Bernheim is truly a dream come true.
The facility began operation with an initial capacity of 150,000 barrels per year, with the ability to produce up to 450,000 barrels a year. A lot of bourbon. Speaking of bourbon, though, Uncle Bougie Distillery also opened in Paristown on Thursday. They pulled the bung out of the barrel yesterday, but the distillery's roots date back hundreds of years. The owners say they've been making bourbon since the late 1700s. During Prohibition, the company was the #1 supplier of bourbon across the state, and today the owner hopes bourbon lovers will make the trip to Paristown to try some of the now legal whiskey.
But the bourbon is really this 200-year-old plus story of my family in Kentucky. We've been making, as we like to say, untaxed whiskey in Kentucky for a couple hundred years. And so we've decided to go legal, and now you can get a legal, taste of Uncle Bougie's here at our bar or in our tasting room.
If you want to pick out your own barrel or share some stories, the store recommends booking reservations ahead of time. Always so cool to see the history of bourbon, especially during the times of Prohibition. Well, switching gears now, because an Indiana bankruptcy attorney is suing Meta, that's the parent company of Facebook, because his Facebook pages keep getting suspended. And that lawsuit stems from the attorney's name, which happens to be Mark Zuckerberg. So he says his Facebook account and advertisements keep getting deleted because, according to Facebook, they believe that Zuckerberg is impersonating a celebrity, which would, of course, be the Facebook founder, the other Mark Zuckerberg. Apparently, there are two in this world. Jenny Runovich explains.
The Indianapolis attorney,
bankruptcy law office of Mark Zuckerberg,
with that oh-so-famous name, has had it up to here.
So you've never been at Facebook? I'm like, oh my God.
He's not that Mark Zuckerberg.
I'm Mark Steven and he's Mark Elliott.
But he says having the same name as Facebook's founder is more nightmare than novel coincidence.
Not when they take my money. This really pissed me off.
Zuckerberg is suing Meta, the parent company of Facebook, for negligence and breach of contract because Facebook keeps shutting down his pages, accusing him of impersonating a celebrity.
And using a false name, which I've had way longer than he has. I've got better things to do than to sue Facebook, and they have more money and more lawyers and more resources than I do. I'd rather not pick a fight with them, but I don't know how else to make them stop.
Zuckerberg says his business account got shut down 5 times in the last 8 years. His personal account 4 times. In fact, try to find the Mark Zuckerberg attorney page, you get this.
You're off right now.
I'm off.
You've been suspended.
Suspended.
Again.
Facebook, jail.
Emails show apologies from Meta, but Zuckerberg says it still takes months to get back on Facebook, and then he gets suspended again.
The last time they did it, it was over 6 months before I got my account turned back on. So I don't know how else to get their attention.
Zuckerberg, Mark S., not Mark E., says getting kicked off Facebook has cost him thousands of dollars in advertising for his law practice.
It's like buying a billboard on the side of the highway, paying the people for the billboard, and then they come and put a giant blanket over it. And you don't get the benefit of what you paid for. It's not fair, it's not right, they need to stop.
The lawsuit is asking Meta to keep his accounts on and pay for attorney's fees and lost ad money. As for that other Mark Zuckerberg,
If he wants to fly here personally and say I'm sorry, or maybe let me spend a week on his boat to say I'm sorry, I'd probably take him up on that.
Yeah, I think that Mark Zuckerberg definitely has some sweet presents in store for him, because a Meta spokesperson says we now know there's more than one Mark Zuckerberg in the world, and they promise that they are getting to the bottom of this. But very interesting to hear that side of the story there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with some more headlines in sports. Now to some sports news. The WNBA is going to have to get by without one of its biggest names in the game right now. Of course, we're talking about Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. She announced on Thursday she's out for the rest of the season. She's been sidelined since July 15th due to a groin injury. She's been participating in non-contact practices and training since then, but she said in a social media post that she is not going to improve enough to return. She wrote on social media that disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how she's feeling. The regular season for the WNBA ends next Thursday, September 11th. The playoffs are after that, so it's not like she's going to be out for months and months and months because of this, but certainly thinking about Caitlin and hoping for a quick recovery. The Louisville Bats have a lot to celebrate going into the weekend. With last night's win, the team is on their longest winning streak of the season. Team leaders say they'll be playing in front of a sold-out crowd for tomorrow's game against the St. Paul Saints. The Bats say fans should get to the ballpark early, though. Tomorrow's theme will be a party at the park. There will be craft beers, cocktails, and Cupcake Vineyard wine pours available. Plus, they have the fireworks show after the game. Racing Louisville also plays tonight, this one against the Portland Thorns. And this game, it's a big one. It's a rematch of a hotly contested and memorable 3-3 tie at Portland in April. It's also college night at Lim Family Stadium. That means students can get tickets for just $10 tonight. Other promotions include a complimentary photo booth, silent disco, and yard games. For tickets and more info, you can just head over to their website. The first game of the NFL season between the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Dallas Cowboys had a lot of drama, lightning delays, even a player spitting on someone from the other team. Before the game, the Eagles celebrated with their second Super Bowl trophy and banner reveal. In the first quarter, though, Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott's face. Carter was ejected immediately. Turns out they clarified it was just a misunderstanding because Prescott was spitting, accidentally spit on Carter. That's when he spit back. So a lot of back and forth there. Will be interesting to see how that plays out in the league, though. Play was paused near the end of the third quarter, though, due to lightning. But in the end, the Eagles were able to beat the Cowboys with a final score of 24-20. Certainly a great way to start off the NFL season. And you can watch Lamar Jackson and then the Baltimore Ravens take on the Buffalo Bills. That'll be Sunday night's game at 8:20, and that'll be aired on Wave and NBC. And I have to admit, I am a bit conflicted in that one because I love Lamar Jackson. Of course, go Cards, but also go Bills. So I'm happy either way, I guess you could say. Well, that's all the time we have here for Wave Sunrise Extra. I hope you have a great Friday and a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.